The year 2025 is proving to be the most dangerous year for air travelers in the last decade. In just 7 months, more than 500 people have lost their lives in air accidents. The Air India Flight 171 accident on June 12, 2025, in Ahmedabad, which claimed 260 lives, has become the most tragic accident of the past decade. This accident, involving Boeing 787 Dreamliner series, considered one of the safest planes in the world, shook the entire globe. But why are so many accidents happening? Is air travel becoming less safe than before? Here's the full story of terrifying air accidents and declining trust. Since the beginning of 2025, news of aviation accidents coming from different parts of the world have been extremely tragic. But is this all just a coincidence, or is there a specific reason behind it? In the very first month of the year, on January 29th, American Airlines Flight 5342 collided with a military helicopter over the Potomac River in the USA. The weather was perfectly clear, the plane was safely approaching for landing, and then came the collision that ended everything. The plane's debris fell into the flowing Potomac River below, and 67 people lost their lives in the accident. But there was something strange about this accident as well. The helicopter was flying at 278 feet altitude, whereas according to the rules, it should not have been flying above 200 feet, so close to the airport area. This accident could have been prevented if the airport ATC had separated the paths of the plane and the helicopter in time. In other words, human error cost 67 people their lives. Following this, on June 12th, an accident occurred that shook the entire world. Air India Flight 171 was taking off from Sardar Patel International Airport, Ahmedabad, at 1:37 p.m. The plane began its runway roll after 62 seconds on the runway. At 1:38 and 39 seconds p.m., the plane took off from the runway. But misfortune awaited the plane. Within seconds of takeoff, for mysterious reasons, the plane's fuel switches turned off and fuel supply to the engine stopped. Due to fuel cutoff, the aircraft began losing power, and just 32 seconds after takeoff, at 1:39 p.m., the plane crashed above a medical college colony. Before anyone could understand what was happening, the 126,000 liters of fuel on board ignited a fire that turned everything to ashes. 260 lives were lost forever in the accident. Later, the cockpit voice recording revealed one pilot asking the other why he had cut off the fuel. The other pilot replied that he hadn't done anything. Now the question is, if neither of the pilots turned off the aircraft's fuel switch, then how did the fuel switch turn off by itself? The world was still trying to recover from this tragedy when on July 21st, an Air Force plane crashed into people's homes in Bangladesh. This accident claimed 35 lives. Mechanical failure in the aircraft's equipment is being held responsible for the accident. Just 2 days later, on July 24, 2025, a nearly 50-year-old Antonov 24 plane carrying 49 people crashed into forest near an airport in the Amur region of Russia and was engulfed in flames. The accident also ended the lives of all 49 people on board. In the first 8 months of 2025 alone, the number of people who have lost their lives in various air accidents has exceeded 500. This figure is significantly higher than in previous years, so have air accidents really increased this much? To understand the reasons behind these ongoing accidents, we need to look back at the aviation industry's history. Since the 1950s, air travel has become popular with large numbers of people worldwide. However, due to less advanced technology in the early days, the number of air accidents was also quite high. That's why between 1970 and 1990, around 2,000 people used to die each year in air accidents. During this period, the aviation industry also witnessed its deadliest accident when on March 27, 1977, two Boeing 747 aircrafts collided at Tenerife Airport in Spain. This accident took 583 lives. However, this was also the time when aircraft manufacturers started focusing most on air travel safety. With time, technology improved, and air travel became much safer. By 2010, the average number of deaths in air accidents per year had dropped below 1,000. By now, you must have understood that air travel has been continuously getting safer. But in 2024, the number of deaths in air accidents rose sharply to 416, which is much higher than 229 in 2023. The situation in 2025 is even more serious. Although aircraft manufacturers continuously work on improving safety, many times circumstances arise where all their preparations prove insufficient against evolving challenges. Although every accident has different causes responsible behind it, American Airlines Flight 5342 collided with a helicopter due to the airport's ATC's failure to take timely action. As for Air India Flight 171, the reason why the fuel switch is turned off is still unclear. Regarding the plane crash in Bangladesh, the cause was the malfunctioning of the plane's equipment. Meanwhile, bad weather was a major reason behind the Antonov 24 plane crash in Russia's Amur region. If we categorize all these, generally there are 4 types of causes responsible for air accidents. The first and biggest cause of such accidents is human error. Here, we are not only talking about mistakes made by pilots. These include errors made by ground crew or ATC as well. In 2020, around 70% of air accidents occurred due to some form of human error. This is a worrying statistic that shows that despite technological advancements, humans remain the weakest link. Modern aircraft are increasingly dependent on automation. That means most of the work from takeoff to landing is done through the flight management computer. As a result, pilots need to engage much less during the flight. Generally, when pilots operate such automation-based flights for a long time, their ability to react well in critical situations decreases significantly. Although all airlines traffic train their pilots for such situations in virtual flight simulators, the experience gained from a virtual simulator often proves inadequate. When pilots face real-world challenges, they may panic and make wrong decisions. Additionally, mistakes by ground crew or ATC can also cause flights to become victims of accidents. For example, on January 29th, at the beginning of the year, an American Airlines plane collided with a helicopter and crashed into the river below. If the airport ATC had separated the aircraft and helicopter in time, this accident could have been avoided. The second biggest cause of air accidents worldwide is mechanical failure. An aircraft is made up of millions of parts. Any problem in any of these parts can cause the entire aircraft to suffer a catastrophic accident. About 20% of air accidents are caused by mechanical failure. Often this failure happens due to negligence and maintenance. The cause behind the plane crash in Bangladesh is being attributed to some mechanical failure in the aircraft. At times, defects also appear in parts during the manufacturing of the plane itself. In July 2023, Pratt & Whitney announced that during the manufacturing of several of their engines, a coating was used on crucial engine components that could cause the parts to crack under high pressure. Because of this issue, these engines could fail mid-air. The company had mostly used these engines in the Airbus A320neo series aircraft. As a result, over the past few years, the company has grounded hundreds of aircraft with these engines and carried out maintenance on them. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 crashed into the Java Sea just 13 minutes after takeoff. 189 people lost their lives in this accident. During the investigation, a major mistake by Boeing came to light. Boeing installed CFM engines in its 737 MAX series aircraft. These engines were larger than usual and were mounted slightly forward on the wings. After doing this, the company found that the aircraft sometimes started losing altitude on its own. To solve this problem, Boeing included the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS, in the aircraft's flight control system. This system had two sensors mounted outside the plane, constantly monitoring the plane's angle of attack. When the aircraft started losing altitude, the MCAS system would automatically increase the plane's altitude. The real problem was that if the sensors malfunctioned and sent incorrect data, the MCAS system would activate without pilot command and push the plane's nose down. Even more dangerously, the company did not mention this system in any of their manuals. This meant pilots were unaware of how to control or deactivate the system. So, when there was a fault in the system during flights causing the plane's nose to keep pushing down, pilots didn't know what to do. As a result, the plane's altitude kept decreasing, eventually stalling and crashing within seconds. The following year, in 2019, after a similar incident, hundreds of 737 MAX series aircraft were grounded worldwide. Later, Boeing improved the system so it would only activate if data from both angle of attack sensors matched, and pilots could now disengage the system. Overall, Boeing's mistakes caused 2 plane crashes in 2 years, killing a total of 346 people. Another major cause of mechanical failure in aircraft is their old age. Old aircraft have long been out of the company's production line, and it becomes quite difficult to find parts for their maintenance. In recent years, the average age of aircraft has increased from 13.6 years to 14.8 years. Due to disruptions in the global supply chain, airlines are forced to operate their aircraft for about a year longer than before. But as the aircraft gets older, the chances of mechanical failure increase. The third biggest reason behind aviation accidents is the weather. Even though technology has advanced significantly in recent times and there are many advanced systems to predict weather, human technology often fails in the face of nature's challenges. Recent studies show that due to climate change, there has been a significant increase in clear air turbulence, CAT. Such turbulence often doesn't appear on the radar and suddenly appears in the plane's path. A study conducted in 2023 found that the frequency of dangerous clear air turbulence in the North Atlantic region increased by about 55% between 1979 and 2020. In May 2024, a Singapore Airlines flight encountered extreme clear air turbulence, during which the plane's altitude dropped sharply within a few seconds. Several people were injured in this incident, and one passenger died. Turbulence now accounts for about 70% of weather-related aviation accidents. The most concerning thing is that climate change is likely to increase this further. Besides this, bad weather can present significant challenges during aircraft landing and takeoff. Heavy rainfall can cause water to accumulate on the runway, increasing the risk of the plane slipping after landing. This is called runway contamination, which greatly reduces the friction between the plane's wheels and the runway. As a result, the distance needed to stop the plane after landing increases significantly. A similar incident almost happened on July 21, 2025 at Mumbai Airport, when Air India Flight 2744, coming from Kochi, slipped off the runway after landing. When the pilot managed to bring the aircraft back onto the runway, due to runway contamination, the plane stopped on a taxiway ahead of the runway instead of the runway itself. Mumbai Airport is one of the longest airports in the world. If the runway were shorter, July 21, 2025 could have been another tragic day in the aviation industry. So, has air travel really become less safe? Is it not right to call air travel unsafe just by looking at the increased number of accidents? In the past 30 years, the number of accidents per 1 million departures has decreased from 2.57 to 0.74. This means that if 1 million flights take off worldwide, only about 0.75 flights end up in an accident. So if someone travels by air, the chance of being involved in an accident is just 0.000075%, and the chance of dying in such an accident is even much lower. On the other hand, the probability of death for people traveling by road worldwide is approximately 0.0147%. Although in 2024, the commercial aviation accident rate increased from 1.09 to 1.13 per million flights, which is concerning, this data clearly shows that despite increase in air accidents, air travel remains the safest mode of transportation in the world. However, the tragic accidents, one after another in 2025, have shaken people's confidence. Therefore, there is a need for airlines and aircraft manufacturing companies to strengthen their safety standards even more so that such accidents do not happen again in the future. But the truth is, air travel is still the safest means of transport in the world.